The sequel trilogy is over, and while it didn't exactly leave everyone universally satisfied, I at least got to enjoy the first 2 films. It's also worth noting that pleasing every Star Wars fan isn't exactly like bullseyeing one Pratt with your T-16 back home. The fandom is disparate, and for better or for worse, Star Wars means different things to different people. To some, Star Wars means more than just the films. While George Lucas, J.J. Abrams, and soon Rian Johnson have been the ones leading the charge on the movies, a much more diverse pool of creators have been working away at the TV shows, books, and games. I've read /watched /played so many of these expanded universe works that, to me, they're an essential part of why I love Star Wars so much. And look, I know all the cliches about the expanded universe being obtuse and overwrought in a great many areas, but that's not the whole story. Come to think of it, I actually think it may be the case that the best things about Star Wars aren't the films. Whether that's the Clone Wars making the prequels actually good, or the various tie-in books and comics fleshing out the world fans have been obsessed with since 1977. So, in the spirit of channeling our own inner Babu Frick and going, hey, I'm Ewan, this is What Culture, and here are 10 reasons the best things about Star Wars aren't the movies. Number 10. There are better endings. When the best trilogy ending so far comes from the prequels, you know you have a bit of a problem. Ending a trilogy is hard, especially with a property that has as much on the line as Star Wars, so of course there's a ton of meddling that just ends up hurting the final product. Meanwhile, the books and TV shows have the privilege of just chugging along just fine until they feel like ending, at which point they can do so at their own pace, using their own ideas. However, there are also really good book trilogies like the Aftermath novels by Chuck Wendig, and the Knights of the Old Republic games had a decent enough ending with the first sequel. Endings are far from easy, but the expanded universe proves that it's far from impossible. Number 9. The Jedi characters are more developed. If the 2 versions of Clone Wars can be credited for anything, it would definitely be giving the Jedi characters that the prequel films gave basically zero character, character. Sure, they still talk in their typical flat tone of wisdom that makes them all sound alike, but if you look deeper, you find a lot more personality in their words than what the movies gave them. From Anakin being so much more likable, it's honestly hilarious how bad they screwed up in the movies, to Obi-Wan being even more of a gloriously sassy troll than he already was, to managing to imbue a character named Kit Fisto with a modicum of dignity. The various games, books, and television shows made the Jedi Order something that you actually wanted to care about and follow in a story. It stands in stark contrast to the constant standing in rooms and talking that the prequels gave us. Number 8. The importance of video games. One thing that's especially cool about the EU is the sheer array of great video games it has. Whether it's the Jedi Knight series or something like the original Battlefronts, Star Wars video games were, for a time, the vanguard of the expanded canon. There are too many classics to list off here, but one of the best, of course, has to be Knights of the Old Republic. BioWare's series opened up a whole new area of the Star Wars mythos and is still captivating minds today, to the point where rumors circulate every year that Lucasfilm will, at long last, sanction a film based on the era. KOTOR typifies just how great Star Wars can be when transplanted to a different medium, and while not every game has gotten the feeling right, LucasArts proved time and time again how games could take Star Wars to a whole other level. Number 7. They've saved the prequels. It's kind of weird to think that we're in the midst of the prequels getting reappraised, and I actually have to say I'm kind of here for it. Although it'll pain a great many of you to hear, I was 3 when The Phantom Menace came out in 1999. My parents had shown me the original films before, with the prequels of basically my Star Wars growing up. I had a dancing Jar Jar, Lego everywhere, and it didn't hurt that the actor playing Obi-Wan Kenobi had my own name either. Even so, while I was young, I could tell there were issues, and looking back on them as an adult, I feel more confident than ever before in saying that the prequels wasted one of the best storytelling opportunities that Star Wars has ever seen. There's a genius premise in examining the fall of the Jedi, but the execution just wasn't there due to a myriad of factors. But as some of you may know if you caught my video on the Dark Disciple novel a while back, the expanded universe actually provided the deft touch needed to make the prequels work. The Clone Wars is a prime example of that, while other literature over the last few years has also gone some way in telling the story the films didn't, but should have. Attack of the Clones is fairly beyond the pale, look, I get that, but if you watch all the Clone Wars before Revenge of the Sith, you do get a little bit more out of it. Number 6. The EU has better villains. Now, don't get me wrong, I love villains like Darth Vader and Kylo Ren, but the problem with the movies is that the villains don't have a lot of breathing room. Now, for villains like Darth Vader, this this works because the mystery surrounding him added to his own menace, but for other villains, you just need more time to show him off. This is probably why it took so long for villains like Thrawn to be showcased in a TV show. Thrawn is a patient villain, and one whose nature almost makes it impossible for him to work on the big screen. The same can be said of Admiral Ray Sloane of the Aftermath books, one of the absolute best villains in the entire Star Wars canon, but mostly because we're in her head for much of it. Factor in characters like Sloane, Thrawn, and even the second sister from Jedi Fallen Order, and it's easy to see why the EU has succeeded so well when it comes to villains. Number 5. The world building. One of the main reasons I think everyone loves Star Wars is down to the actual mythos George Lucas constructed. It's big, epic, spans thousands of years, and encompasses hundreds of planets. And while it's obvious that the mystery of what hasn't been explored has also drawn fans to Star Wars, it's also true that a lot of the more intricate world-building elements have been left to the side in some instances. The expanded universe isn't perfect, but it has done a remarkable job in fleshing out some of the more interesting questions left behind by the films. Ever wondered how the Emperor went about consolidating power after the fall of the Jedi? There's a story explaining just how. What about the clones who didn't follow Order 66? There's a story for that too. And what about one that reveals why Leia left the New Republic to form the Resistance, and how the Empire collapsed following the capitulation at Endor? Again, there are comics, books, and games that detail what exactly happened. The point I'm making here obviously comes with a huge caveat that the films shouldn't just be vehicles for exposition, but it's also true that I've never really read a piece of expanded universe fiction that has ever really bored me with details. It all adds to the story and informs the kind of Star Wars I see on the big screen. Number 4. Clone Wars is the best Star Wars TV show ever. There are no two ways of thinking about it. Star Wars: The Clone Wars, whether you're talking about the CGI animated show or the original 5-minute shorts by Gennady Tartakovsky, is the best sub-franchise in this mega franchise out of all of them. A show that really does make the prequels completely worth it because it gave us such an awesome show. One of the main reasons that there aren't that many shows expanding on what happened between each of the 3 trilogies' individual movies is because not a lot of time passes between them for the most part. The biggest gap between films in the original trilogy is only a couple of years between A New Hope and Empire, and the sequel trilogy has 2 films that take place within days of each other. The prequels are the outliers here, each movie taking place years apart from one another. Anakin starts the trilogy as a literal kid and ends it as a man pushing 30. As you can imagine, there is plenty of wiggle room there for a show to expand upon what happened, and that's precisely what The Clone Wars does. From introducing characters that have become fan favorites to expanding on the lore in some of the most fascinating ways in the series, Clone Wars really did do it all. Number 3. Ahsoka Tano. Just Ahsoka Tano. A character this good needs an entry all to herself. If you want a walkthrough on the heights the Star Wars expanded universe can reach when put in the right hands and given the time and funding needed to do what it needs to do, then you look no further than Ahsoka Tano. While she didn't make the best first impression in the world, first appearing in the dreadfully mediocre Star Wars: The Clone Wars movie, Ahsoka quickly won over the fandom through her appearances in the TV show that shortly followed. Out of all the characters in that show, bar maybe Maul and Ventress, Ahsoka is the one who goes through the most noticeable development. When we first meet her, she's only around 14 or 15, and as the show goes on, we follow her as she matures into a young woman and a capable Jedi. And even after Clone Wars, we get to see her further develop in spin-off novels and in Rebels, where it's established that she becomes a powerful Force user after leaving the Jedi. Number 2. There's better diversity. Oh, I can hear the comment section screaming out on this one, and I frankly don't care. Star Wars is for everyone, and while there's no substitute for actual on-screen representation, the expanded universe has done plenty to make the galaxy far, far away feel much more diverse. And yeah, when J.J. Abrams devotes more time to a bloody giant slug getting a hug at the end of Rise of Skywalker over the token gay couple he included at the end, this is a big deal. From fantastically written LGBT characters like Sinjir Raphaelos from Star Wars Aftermath, or Dr. Aphra from Dr. Aphra, to the first openly asexual Star Wars character in V. Maradi from Star Wars Phasma, the expanded universe constantly delivers in the department where the films don't. It's high time the film started playing catch-up. Number 1. There's a story for everyone. At the beginning of this list, I said that Star Wars means different things to different people. The expanded universe, for all its highs and lows, exemplifies that and then some. Owing to the fact that it encompasses a wide variety of mediums, both visual and otherwise, the Star Wars EU is able to tell stories that cater to every kind of fan. If you want a see more of the prequels, or maybe even what happened before them, you can do just that and listen to the Dooku Jedi Lost audiobook. If you want a classic war novel that takes cues from old stories about fighter pilots, then Alphabet Squadron should be right up your alley. The EU has stories big and small, and no Star Wars fan ever gets left behind. There's something really neat about that, and as Disney prepare to embark on Star Wars' next era, it's worth pointing out that they're starting it, Project Luminous, with the novels, games, and comics. If that isn't a testament to how good those stories are, then what is?